I'm going to go through all the stages of how to prepare and season this Dutch oven and some tips on how to look after it once you've started cooking with it. Let's get going. Hey, we're John and Sam. Join us as we build our first overlanding vehicle and start our travels around the world in a Land Rover Defender. What's up everyone? Today we're going to do a little bit of camping prep. I've just received a Dutch oven, which is a cast iron pot. This one's come from Germany. I did try and get a couple of the cheap ones off eBay, manufactured in China, and they just really weren't up to quality, and the sizes weren't great either. This one is a 5.6 litre, so it's big enough to do a camp cook and then have some leftovers, bang them in the fridge, and then on another night when you can't be bothered cooking, then you can just reheat sort of last night's dinner or a few leftovers. This particular one has got feet that sit onto the top of the lid, and you can put it upside down and use it as a pan if you want. Like I said, it's 5.6 litres. It's a little bit shallower than I was hoping, but it's going to do. It's going to work. What you've got to watch with cast iron products is that they will rust and you need to prep them first. So I'm going to go through all the stages of how to prepare and season this Dutch oven and some tips on how to look after it once you've started cooking with it. And these things will outlast me, so let's get going. What you're going to want to do is you're going to soak this with a little bit of detergent in the sink in some warm water for about an hour. After that, you're going to give it a good scrub. When these are manufactured, they're going through a lot of factory machinery and whatever, and they've got oils and stuff on them, and you want to get all of that off. So you start off with a clean base before you start creating your own seasoning. After it's been soaking for an hour, just give it a good scrub. Gets all the machine oils off it and all the gunk from the manufacturing process, and just clean it up a bit. Right now we're just going to rinse it off now with some hot water. Just get all the sun residue off it, and we're going to give it a dry. Just a quick dry with a tea towel. It's mostly dry now anyway, and just get all that off. To dry it properly, it's going to have to go in the oven. So to air dry it, we're going to turn the oven on to 150 degrees in Celsius, and this is an air circulating oven, so 150 degrees, and we're going to leave it in there for 1 hour. Now we're taking it out of the oven and we're going to let that sit there and cool. It might take over an hour. Same with the lid. What you're doing now is that you're going to be putting on a coating of oil, and that's going to go all around the inside and the inside of the lid. So that's going to be your cooking surface. Just put a tiny couple of drops in, and then I'm just going to use a brush and then just brush it in. A nice even coating. After you've done the inside of the pot, do the same with the inside of the lid. Add some oil and brush it in. So now we're just going to let that soak just for 10 minutes, just to sort of soak into the metals a bit. But while we're doing that, we're preheating the oven, and we're going to bake it in. Let's talk about oils. So you've got to be careful with your choice of oil. Use like a liquid lard or a peanut oil, that's what I'm using here, or a walnut oil or linseed oil. Whatever you do, don't use a olive oil. The olive oil has a smoke point which is too low, and it'll end up just being, it creates like a bitter taste on the surface. So any of the other oils that I've mentioned, some sort of vegetable oil, stay away from olive oil. Check out the smoke point of the oil that you're going to use. You want it to be quite high. After you've completed brushing it in, just wipe off the excess with a cloth. What you want is a nice surface, clean surface with oil. You don't want it dripping in there. In terms of cloth, use a lint-free or a microfiber cloth or something like that. Don't use a paper towel, because a paper towel will leave bits and pieces of residue and they'll bake into the surface. This time we're cranking the oven to 220 degrees Celsius. We want it nice and hot to bake that oil on and give it a really hard patina and protective coating. This time we're going to have a baking tray underneath, because it's going to catch some of the oil that possibly could drip down into the bottom. So putting that down there. The cast iron pot goes upside down in there, and the lid facing up or upside down and there. And we're going to bake this for 90 minutes. Now we're taking it out of the oven. It's been in there for an hour and a half, so it's extremely hot. Same with the lid. Pull that out. And we're going to just let that cool. It could take over an hour to cool down. And that's that. That's been cooling now for over an hour. It's still just slightly warm to the touch, and that is done. That has got a nice hard anti-stick patina on it. It's going to be, it's going to work fine. So now some tips on how to look after it while you're camping. And that's it. If you followed these instructions and you've bought a cast iron pot, you will now have an indestructible piece of cookery that you're going to be proud of, and you're going to make some awesome dinners in it. Just in terms of looking after it. So when you're cooking, some of the things that you shouldn't really cook with too much is very acidic food. So something with a lot of lemon in it, or vinegar, or even to a certain extent tomatoes. If it's got a lot of that tomato in it, the acid can break down the patina, and then you've got to start again. So the other thing to remember is when you're washing up, never ever use soap. That is the worst thing. It will break down the patina and you're going to have to start it all again. Just scrape it all out with a wooden spatula or whatever, and use hot water, and you'll protect the coating. And to a certain extent, everything that you cook into it adds to the history of the pot, and it will actually make the patina stronger and the coating a little bit more better every time you use it. When you have finished, it's a good idea to just get a soft cloth and a little bit of sunflower oil or rapeseed oil or anything like that, and just give it a once over all around it, and that will stop it rusting. These are cast iron and they'll rust quite quickly if you don't sort of give them a bit of oil. Obviously store it indoors or in the vehicle or anything like that. If you are gonna store it for a very long time, it's a good idea to just get a cloth like this and just put it under the lid, just so there's airflow inside the lid. Otherwise oils inside it can become rancid. Future videos, we are going to be using this pot. We're going to be cooking. We're going to do videos on camp cooking. I've got some awesome stuff lined up, and so keep an eye out for those. If you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'd love to hear from you in the comments about any experiences you've had with cast iron cooking, and any other cooking ideas that you can give to me or anybody else reading the channel. And that's it. Bye for now. So the first thing you're going to want to do is that you're going to want to soak this in some warm water with a little bit of soak this in some water with a little bit of dishwater. What? I'd love to hear from you in the comments about your experiences with cast iron cooking, and and